Hello, matrimony ever after fam.
Hey y'all.
Long time no see. So, first off, before we even begin discussing our content, we want to formally apologize to you guys and to ourselves
We are so sorry,
yes,
y'all.
we made a commitment that we were going to start this ministry to highlight what we feel that God's calling is for marriage. And we have failed at that. We have taken a hiatus.
Unplanned
Yeah,
hiatus.
life has happened, but we've made a commitment that we are going to be more consistent with posting content, and that if we're not able to post for a week, that we at least let you guys know, so you guys can hold us accountable and we can hold ourselves accountable. So sorry about that.
Yes, sorry, fam.
All right, so today what we will be discussing is how to fight. So Chanel is going to just kind of give you guys a high level of what we mean when we say how to fight. Okay? So if you don't mind, Chanel, just lay the groundwork, boo.
Okay. Okay, so because social media, basically you pick what you want to post, right? So it's this misconception that marriages are just so happy all the time. There's no arguments. There's always peace.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, well, it's fortunate because everybody got to mind their own business. But it's a lot goes on behind the camera that the people don't see. And so, one day you could think that they having the best day because of whatever they're posting on social media, but really, like, they just had the biggest argument or whatever, and just the misconception is everything's perfect. You just easily disagree and then it just goes away. So we're just gonna discuss today like what we've learned as far as like actually fighting, not within the marriage, but for it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's it, fighting for the marriage. So that leads me to my first question. So why is the word fighting so negative when it's used in the context of a relationship? So you got people, they say, okay, well, you gotta fight for your education, you gotta fight for what's right, you gotta fight for this, fight for what you believe in. But when you say fight in marriage, it's automatically negative. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think because the divorce rate is so high, that's what people think. If y'all hear rattling, it's just our dog.
Yeah,
like,
y'all know she's
crazy.
So.
But like, because the divorce rate at one point was so high, apparently it ain't as high as anymore. But
I think that fighting is negative because I think we just don't know how. You don't know, when you think of fighting in your marriage, it's negative because it's uncomfortable. Because when you're fighting in your marriage, you're fighting for something that you believe in. A lot of the times, it's something that's very near and dear to your heart. It's a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
It's something that you've stored away that you don't want to talk about, and you're being forced by your spouse to talk about something that you don't want to talk about.
Right.
And you're having a fight for that. It's a resistance. It takes you out of your comfort zone. I think that's what it is. It's the negativity of actually having to deal with something.
Right.
That is the problem.
Right. You think that, like, because there's a disagreement, it's all bad. And it's sometimes it is all bad, but there's a way to, like, conquer that or get past that.
Yes.
Okay, so another point. Well, no, not necessarily another point. What me and Jeff were discussing before we started the video is that it's really important to know where you learned your fighting skills. I know for me, I lived at home with both of my parents, and I saw the negative fighting. Like, it went too far. I saw that. And so I knew in my marriage, my husband raised his voice too loud. He put his hand up like he gonna hit me. Like, I'm saying, nah, I'm out. Like, out. Like that. And so Jeff, he was raised by a single mom. He didn't see No fighting.
Yeah.
It was just her.
It's just my mama talking bad to me. That's the only type of fighting that was taking place is when I was getting the whooping and that belt was coming down on me. That's the only kind of fighting. So for me, being a strong-willed individual, maybe even some of the things, of course not raising my hand to her, but you get a little passionate sometimes and maybe you do raise your voice. For me, that's not a red flag because I didn't see that. I'm thinking, okay, that's just being passionate about what you believe in. For her, from what she's seen, that's like a whoa, wait a minute.
Baby,
you know, that
it was
reminds
a trigger.
me.
Like, you hitting on the counter. I don't know about that.
Now, hold on now.
Hitting on the counter. Now, we done had an incident. We had to have a whole car repair, okay? But we learned, y'all. We learned.
Listen, not only did we learn, but my pockets learned too.
Baby, we learned, okay? So the whole gist of that is you recognize what you learned from around you. Then also for the parents, the people who are married that have children, what you do in front of your kids are very important. Mm-hmm. Like the way that we fight in front of our daughter, she sees us have a disagreement is really important because I don't want her to grow up and say, well, my parents, when they fought, it just was terrible at my house. Or we've even talked to people that said we never saw our parents fight. So we just thought, well, the argument's over. They were upset with each other and it's just over. And
I think that I think both of those are equally terrible.
Right.
I think that they're both bad because it's very important for your children to see you fight the right way.
Right.
Because that helps them with their problem solving skills.
Right.
Your children need to understand that, okay, well, if I have an issue, how do I go about communicating that issue? Not only to a spouse, but to a friend.
Yes.
What if they're having an issue and they need to communicate it to you, but they've never seen you deal with that? So it's very important that you display those tools on how to fight the correct way to your children. So that's one thing, all right? So I have a Bible verse. Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. It says, make allowances for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. What that Bible verse means to me is that it's clear you're gonna disagree. We're all different. We all are passionate about certain things, and certain things that I'm passionate about, that's not so much the case for Chanel. Certain things that irritate me might not irritate her and vice versa. And so there's going to be disagreements. There are going to be arguments. However, I think the gist of that Bible verse is that, okay, yeah, go ahead and argue, get it out, but forgive. Forgive your spouse and move on from that and pray for your spouse so that they can be better. All right?
Okay, so here are 5 things that we learned in the process of learning how to fight the right way.
Yes.
So number 1 is to approach the discussion to listen and not just to respond.
Very important.
It's very important. I'm going to say from my side from why that's important. So for me, it's really hard for me to open up and tell Jeff about my feelings for whatever reason. I know the reasons, but it's been very hard for me. Even now, we've been together almost 7 years, and it's sometimes very difficult for me to bring up things to him because I feel like he may not understand or he may not listen. So I'm very reserved in my feelings, and so we would get into discussions. They would get heated, y'all. Hot, because this boy's a talker.
And this girl is not.
Right, and so that's what the issue was. It's like he's poking, and wanting me to talk. And I finally get the nerve to say something. And I say something, and he just attacked me. And it's like, whoop, okay, this is why I don't want to talk in the first place.
But see, guys, that's not necessarily the case. What I believe Chanel is trying to say is that some of the times that is the case, but some of the times
that was the past. Don't get in your feelings, boo.
And some of the times
don't get in your feelings. That was the past. We do it better now.
I'm not in the past, and I'm not in my feelings.
Oh.
So, I believe what Chanel is trying to say is that, yes, that would be the case some of the time, but some of the times it would be that she would not come to the discussion to actually listen. She already had in her mind, and I think taking out Chanel doing this or me doing this, I think the purpose of that particular point is you go to the discussion to actually listen to what your spouse has to say, not necessarily to wait for your spouse to respond so that you can get your point out there.
Right.
But the purpose of it is to give your spouse that opportunity, or to give your spouse that platform to be able to discuss what it is that has caused them to feel the way that they're feeling, and to actually internalize that, so approach the discussion to listen, not just to respond. Second point, you got to be open to stepping in the other person's shoes and seeing life through their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have a Bible verse, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So, in being open to stepping in the other person's shoes and seeing life through their eyes, I think that it's, when I said the internalizing part, I believe that's what I'm getting at. Like, you have to not only listen to what your spouse is saying, but try to identify with them. Put yourself in their shoes and see, okay, well, this is the reason why they feel that way. Whether it's right or wrong, you want to identify with how they're feeling so that you guys can come to a happy medium. So
Okay, so I want to insert something here. Kind of go back to number one. Me and Jeff have a different approach on having any type of discussion. Like, Jeff wants to attack the situation head on at that moment, in the heat of the moment. No matter how high emotions are, he wants to talk about it. Me, I need a little minute to come back, think about it, process my feelings, and know, like, I have to plan out what I'm going to say, because I'm not always confident that I can communicate what I want to say for the other person to, Jeff, to understand what I'm saying. So with the second thing here, Jeff has to take into consideration that I'm not quick to speak, and I also have to take into consideration that Jeff wants to talk about it. So we actually came up with, when we get into a discussion, we're not going to talk about it right there so it can give me time to process, but we are going to come back and talk about it to satisfy him as well, because we both of us need certain things when it comes to the fighting. Like, we gotta be on the same playing field. Like, he can't expect me to come and talk to him if he doesn't give me a little bit of time, and I can't expect him to feel comfortable if I don't ever come back and circle around with him either. But here's where I want to do my verse, because, us women have a stigma of being nagging. I'm not like that. I'm not really a nagger. I'm not a nagger, am I? No, I'm not a nagger. But I found this verse in the Bible, and I thought it would be very helpful. It is 1 Peter 3rd chapter, 4th verse. It says, "Rather, it should be that your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is the great worth of God's sight." So that verse to me is telling me, like, as a wife, I don't need to go to my husband, like, bite off his ear and try to control him and tell him what I think he should do. And vice versa. Like, husbands also should not be trying to force the wife to do anything. You be the lead by example. Like, even if the other person isn't acting the way that you think that they should act, you go by example and say, okay, they don't want to do this the right way. I'm going to just give them a little second. Then I'm going to come back around and say, okay, now that everything's cool, can we talk about it? Can we go about it that way? And you having that right attitude for yourself is going to convict the other person to do the right thing and show them that y'all are in it together, not just one person into this.
And for this particular point, it's important for you, because more than likely, I believe the majority of people will either fall into they want to discuss it now, or they would want to discuss it later.
Right.
It's important that if you are a discuss it now type of person and you're with the person that does not want to discuss it now, that you do respect that person and that you do give them that time to be able to conceptualize and come up with whatever it is that they're wanting to say, and literally probably practice in their head how they want to try to deliver that to you. And for you all who are the people who want to conceptualize, it's your responsibility to make sure that you follow up.
Right.
Because if that person who is wanting to talk about that situation now gives you their time, that also should not mean that person who gives you that time should have to come back and check in with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it needs to be, both of you guys, but some of the times you need to come back and initiate that conversation as well. So
no matter how hard it is, and when I tell you it's hard for me to bring stuff back up, it's hard. But in order to have a successful marriage and I'm fighting the right way, I make sure that I come back to Jeff and say, I know we didn't talk about it then, but I'm ready now.
Yeah. And so that's the second point. The third point, be prepared to discuss a plan on how you can prevent the situation from happening again. This is something that we still struggle with. I think that we have gotten a lot better on the first point. I believe we've gotten a lot better on the second point. I think I attempt when we're discussing or having an argument on trying to come up with the plan. I believe Chanel not so much. She's a little bit more stubborn than I am in that regard. But that's something that, I mean, if Chanel has a weakness, that's my weakness. If I have a weakness, that's her weakness. So that's something that we have to continue to work on, getting on the same playing field, because it's not just enough to discuss what the problem was. If you put the problem out there in the atmosphere and you leave it there, what's the point of bringing it up?
Right.
If it is important that once you put that problem out there and you explain to your significant other how that made you feel, for you all to put in a barrier to keep that from happening again. And if it does happen again,
how are we gonna
handle it so
right.
that we don't end up in this particular situation, so that when we fight again, we can add another layer to it and not be fighting about the same thing over and over and over. That is tiring. You know?
Okay, insert everybody. It's okay to agree to disagree.
Yes.
Not all the time, but sometimes you just don't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
I know the misconception is like, since you're married, you're supposed to agree on almost everything. Me and Jeff, we grew up in the same type of neighborhood, but we both have different life experiences. So something that might be detrimental to him may not even, shake me a little bit, and vice versa. You have to realize, like, sometimes you just not gonna agree, and that's okay. You can say, well, we don't agree this time. We're not gonna argue about it again. If it ever comes up, we already know, and then you don't be mad again. You just be like, okay, well, this is just something we're not gonna agree on. Okay, so the fourth thing is fighting fair. We both have struggled with fighting fair, because see, me growing up, I didn't see my daddy go for the gusto. Okay, he come at you with them words to hurt you, because like, he in his feelings, so he came at my mama to hurt her, right? And I kind of picked that up too. Okay, and I don't know. I'm not proud of that, but I have said some really mean things to Jeff. And we've worked through that and processed that, but
fighting fair, that even goes more along the lines of when you first start dating and you're establishing your friendship and you get to talking about those things that are near and dear to your heart, maybe even things that are you're insecure about, and you're sharing those things because you're trying to build a bond with your spouse.
Right.
Those are things that should not be brought into a heat of an argument. Never should those things be mentioned to anybody. Never should they be mentioned to your spouse, because all you're doing is you're doing yourself a disservice, because that's going to create a wound that it's going to cause your spouse to not want to share anything else with you like that. And that doesn't do anything but hurt you. I mean, it hurts your spouse, but it hurts you as well. So fighting fair just simply means we are focusing on what the immediate issue is. We're not talking about what happened last week that you didn't want to bring up then, but now this is a little similar and we want to talk about it now. No, we're talking about X, Y, and Z, not A, B, C.
Right. Okay. So to add on to that, some people tend to sweep things under the rug and let things build up and build up and build up. Once you get to that explosion, like, it's not fair for you to take out those 20 things that you've been building up on the other person. Like, that's not fair, because they never even knew you had a problem with those things. So, like, you hit them below the belt at that point. And if it's something that you've already discussed or went over and y'all resolved it, it should never be brought up again, like, in a hurtful way. Like, of course you can go back and say, you remember this time we did this and this is how we acted, and you kind of reflect on it. But as far as like bringing it back up and still having that malice in your heart, like, you truly didn't forgive your spouse for hurting you that one time. And like, at this point, you fighting fair, you really need to show forgiveness to your spouse, because like something that happened five days ago is not the same thing that they did today. Like, you gotta let it go. If y'all already resolved it, let it be resolved, then go on.
And the last point, realizing that being sincerely apologetic is usually more powerful and important than being right. And what we mean by that, so it's okay to be right, but have you ever been right and you left an argument and you felt like both of y'all lost? Like you brought up a point and you said the sun is yellow, right?
Okay.
And by the time you left that argument, you was like, okay, did that really matter? Like, was it that for me to argue about that, did I accomplish what I thought I was going to accomplish? So being apologetic and being sincerely apologetic, I think is way more powerful, because when you're apologetic about something, I feel like you have internalized what that person's pain is, and you've realized that, wow, while I didn't see it like that, maybe I didn't intend for it to be that way, I can see how that hurts you. Chanel had brought up something to me a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, and I had one of these moments. And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but at the end of it, I had asked, I was like, Chanel, why are you acting like that? Or why are you responding that way? And her response to me was, because you are one of the only people that I have out here. And we're here in Texas. We don't have family. It's me, it's my baby, and it's Chanel. It's us three. We don't, and I mean, we have some family, like some distant family that's out here, you know, and everything. But in terms of direct family, we all we got. And I had one of them moments, and I don't think that I apologized at that time. But in my head, I apologized to myself. And I apologize to God, and I will even apologize to you about it now. It might be a little delayed.
That's what I'm like. I'm trying to figure out what happened.
But now, we'll talk about it offline.
Okay.
But no, I literally had like one of them moments. I was like, wow, you know, although I believe I was right in what I was communicating to her, it didn't matter at that point, because she was hurt, you know, and she was reacting the way she was reacting because she was hurt. And the sincere apologetic spirit would say, you know what, me being right at this point doesn't matter. We just need to right this. We need to make sure that she's okay so that we can get through this. So make sure that when you have that opportunity to be apologetic, sincerely do that. Even if you're right. Even if you think you're right. And that's the hardest thing. That's when you know you have reached the next level. And I feel like we're on the brink of getting there, but we got a lot of, it's a process on fighting.
We're 27 years old, and we haven't had the best examples of fighting around us, and so we're figuring this out. This is like learning how to walk as an infant. Like, you've never done it before. You haven't seen the right example, so you got to give yourself grace, because you're going to mess up. You got to give your spouse grace, because they're going to mess up. But know that because you're fighting together, you're fighting for your marriage.
For the same cause.
God is going to bless that. He's going to honor it. I mean, we've went through a lot of things, and we're still here. We know some people that's our same age that are divorced, and we're just blessed to still be together, to still love one another,
to still like one another,
to like, yes, this is my best friend. But we're just thankful that we're, just like we're talking to you guys, it's a learning process for us, and we just want to share our experiences and our growth and encourage other people to know, like, you're not alone. You're not the only ones that's learning how to do this. There's other people that's really having some really hard discussions at home, and you're not alone. It's okay. Have those hard discussions, but move past them and be successful in your marriage. Don't worry about what nobody else is doing. Like, just know you ain't alone.
And be careful on when you're on social media and you're going past your best friend's post, and it seems like every one of those posts is, oh, we're at date night, or oh, he bought me this, or oh, we're going here, or oh, she's doing this for me. Please believe that that's not 100% of their life.
Not.
Those are things, the beauty of social media is that you're able to display to people the things that you want them to see.
Right.
That's the reason why it's so addictive.
Right.
Because you can hide the things that you're insecure about or that you don't want people to see, but you can broadcast everything
That's
that makes
good.
make you look and feel better.
Right.
And
now,
so,
we ain't
yeah.
encourage you to get on social media and put your business
Please
out.
don't do that.
Don't do that.
No.
But just know, just because you see somebody else, doing whatever on social media, that may not be their reality at home. So we love y'all.
Yes.
And we're so thankful that we get to do this. And once again, we're really sorry
Yes.
for the unplanned hiatus. We're not doing that again.
Yeah.
We're discussing some things that we want to do for 2019 with Matrimony Ever After, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. And so we hope that y'all enjoy this content. Please don't be those people that post your business on social media, because I'm going to tell you what me and this one going to do. We going to send it to each other.
No,
we're going to send it to each other first, and then we're going to pray for you. And then we're going to pray for each other that we can get a little bit better, okay? No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. Maybe. But, no, anyways, guys, we love y'all. Thank y'all. Stay tuned for what we have planned for Matrimony Ever After. Like she said, we got some things in the works. We'll be discussing it here shortly.
We're going to say a quick prayer.
Yes.
We ain't going to take too long. We love y'all. We want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Dear God, thank you so much for allowing us to come together today and learn new skills on improving our marriage, as in fighting for our marriage and it not being negative, and knowing that you give us the strength to be who we're called to be in our marriages, to show other people that it's okay to have a little struggle, but at the end you give us strength and you're the one that's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to allow us to win. God, we just love every single person that's ever going to hear us speak.
Yeah.
God, we pray blessings over every single person, whether they're married, single,
Yes.
engaged, courting, wherever they are in life. We're praying for them, and we want them to have a successful marriage as you intended it to be. God, we love you. We thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys. Until next time, we love y'all. Peace. See you.